What you been building, man?
Let's see. Last week I was using the AI, EMAI. I was sort of setting up the knowledge base. So in
Uh-huh.
the knowledge base, you can put things like PDFs, Word documents, text files, which contain the context of who you are, which makes the AI more powerful. It knows about who you are,
That's
and then you
fantastic.
basically when you ask questions, you're not only getting the value of the proprietary information that's not normally on the internet, the business information, but you're also getting it in context of who you are, your business, your
Mhm.
goals. Right.
You're
So I was
creating
working on
a knowledge base as to who you are, what you do, how you do it, so that
that's
it
right.
can be more efficient in serving you and working with you.
That's right. Unlike Claude and ChatGPT, it may not quote know you. It'll just sort of agree with you and tell you what you want to hear. Right.
Mhm.
So
That makes a
this
lot of sense.
one this one is better to kind of have your memory. So it sort of sent me down this rabbit hole of you know, memory seems to be a challenge of what do we do with AI? Because memory isn't always across every chat you've ever had. It sort of takes
Mhm.
some of that information and either puts it in like what ChatGPT would call projects or Claude, I think, calls it, is it called projects in Claude as well?
Mhm.
It'll remember based on you sort of setting up a folder and having a lot of conversations within that folder, lack of a better technical term, folder. Um, or you store your information in sort of this area of the application, whichever one you're working on. But then there's this idea of markdown files. And so for the less technical folks, it's just a type of file that's written in a like a certain way so that it's easy for machines to read it. I've seen lots of people on YouTube and Instagram talking about using these markdown files to contain your memory, your context about who you are. And when the LLM, like the ChatGPTs of the world or any AI you're using, needs context, it's going to go and reference those files and read it first. So there's
Mhm.
people talking about Claude.md, which is this file that's a markdown file that explains everything about you.
Mhm.
So that it kind of knows the context before it starts answering your question. So what I was looking at over the weekend was okay, I want to set it up in my own AI. But I also want to have other AIs that I might refer to for other particular reasons. For example, I might be wanting to redesign the website code or do something that takes some sort of AI agent, which is more technical in nature for most people. But a lot of people are using these AI agents to execute work. And we
Mhm.
have, I know you're working on something, AI employees. I'm also working on it as well.
Yeah.
And for the non-technical folks, I don't think a lot of people are gonna wanna go through what I went through this weekend, trying to go through down files
Let
and,
us build it for you and give it to you.
well,
Don't go
that's
you're building it yourself.
so, yeah, so I just thought, most business people don't wanna sit there and go, "Okay, I wanna become an expert in it," unless they really are developers and they're like, they enjoy doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Every moment I realize I'm doing that stuff, I'm not either talking with customers, networking, and you should spend what, 80% of your time doing that?
That's right. The client
So
acquisition piece, right? That's where the money comes from. But the truth is, part of service delivery is going to having some of these agents in place that are going to support you and your business to be efficient, effective, and have strong delivery. And as you said, I've been working on creating an entire staff for myself that's been really fun to do. But I will second what you have already alluded to, this notion that you could do it if you want and if you're super interested in it, but it is going to take you some time. And I have caught several things that it is not done efficiently as I was building, and that takes time to go back and reset. But once you get it going, I mean, it is absolutely a powerful way to run your business. I formed a co-founder, CEO. I named her after my mom, so her name is Veronica. And what I told this co-founder CEO agent to do is I need you to press me on not just sitting here building because it's super fun, but actually go out and, deliver more on the business. I've got several clients, but I would love to get some more. But I also recognize that having a co-founder like this is going to help me strategize the best way to do that. So I think it was effective use of my time to create this co-founder. But I also told Veronica that I want her to be the opposite of me. I tend to be very creative, and I need this person to be detail oriented and really focused on the strategy. And it has been wonderful to have a sparring partner who says, basically, listen, this is exactly what you said you don't want to be doing, is building and creating and stuff over here. And it has gotten me back on track in many ways. It's been very, very cool. And I could talk to you forever about the whole staff of folks that I've created.
You know, it was interesting when I spent most of Saturday doing this, is saying, okay, there's so much information coming at you all the time, especially if you're interested in this AI space. And it's sort of you have these shiny objects and you go, oh, I want to go see the latest Claude release, or I want to go use Mythos because it's free for the next, or not free, but
Yeah.
discount
Available.
for the next few days. It's available. And then oh, wait a minute, ChatGPT 5.6 is out. And then but then you get in this cycle of like constantly looking at this stuff, which you need to be aware of it. But if you're not applying it in some way to actually move your goals forward, then it's just sort of noise. And I think what I finally had time to reflect on Saturday was, okay, what do I actually want? When do I want it? And what are the things that I think I need help with? So
Hmm.
that exercise in itself helped me create those markdown and text files by having a conversation with AI. So I said, okay, here's what I sort of want to do. Don't solve it. Just help me capture it in a way that will be good context. So no matter how amazing the LLMs come out with a new one and a new version, or it's Claude or ChatGPT, or it's my own AI or whatever, there's always going to be something as a source of truth for what I'm trying to go towards or achieve. And the AI I have will be better for setting the strategy and thinking about the trade-offs and the risk and to kind of pressure test my assumptions.
Yeah.
But if I want to say execute something super complex with code, then maybe that's Claude code. Or if I want to get off of ChatGPT because maybe it don't align with the values of, people who are running it. Like, do I trust that guy with the data? Do I trust where they're investing in. Yeah, is Dario over at Anthropic better than Sam Altman at ChatGPT? Let people decide for themselves, but it's hard to know. I've never met the 2 men, but sometimes you might get a sense of what their values are. I was trying to say, if I wanted to escape ChatGPT, not for the $20 subscription, but just get off of that platform, how could I extract my memory? And so that's sort of where it started. And then from that, I said, okay, well, I know if I want to use Claude Cowork or Claude Code, then I need these sort of markdown files, right?
Hmm.
So that's sort of where I was at. So I set up my little folder structure that I
Hmm.
wanted to sort of, and I know this might be difficult to share on screen because it's probably got private stuff in there, but I wanted to sort of look at your Claude Code setup and how you did
Yeah.
that. So I was hoping we could look at.
Yeah. I'm happy to. And one of the things I want to hit on something that you just touched on because I think it's important for how these things are set up. The the methodology that Jake Van Cleef put together, this ICM framework, and I think let me just make sure that I get it
Those
right.
that don't know Jake, we were on a call with Jake. So can you just explain who Jake is?
Yeah, Jake Von Cleef is an unbelievable AI developer, coder. This guy's been in the, spent a lot of time doing AI for the military. He serves a lot of major corporations. And part of what he puts together is a framework that is basically the underlying file structure for how you're going to utilize AI. And the reason I raise that in the context of this particular conversation is you said, if I was to leave, say, ChatGPT and go to Claude or another AI model, how would it know me? And his ICM framework, it's interpretable context methodology, is really powerful for that. I started implementing the ICM framework in my own work and I found it very malleable. And I'll give you an example that I was just working on before we got on this
So
call.
let's simplify the tech language, right? So
Sure.
ICF stands for, what did you say?
Interpretable context methodology,
All right.
ICM.
Most small businesses will hear that and they'll go, "What the hell is Damon talking about?"
Yeah,
So, dumb it down, not dumb it down, but let's simplify the language. What exactly is it? Series of folders that you should have in a certain structure on your laptop,
that
or
is exactly right. I'm going to
what's
read
the
this here because I have notes on it. So I want to make sure to get it right. And I encourage folks who are interested and want to learn this. Jake is really good at explaining this. He pulls out his erasable marker and he pulls out his dry erase whiteboard and he will explain the whole thing to you. And it'll take you a little while if you're non-technical to get it. But once you understand the logic of simply operating in a file structure, the same way you do with everything else. So let's just say you've got a whole series of documents that you are working on a project in Microsoft Word, right? Let's say you're writing a book and you've got the ideas, you've got the chapters that you want to put together, you've got some frameworks that you want to put in throughout the book that you want to make sure you hit on. You've got some anecdotal stories. So you may have folders for each of those things.
maybe
You've
the
got a
artwork
stories
for
folder.
the book, something like that, like the book
What's
cover,
that?
the artwork, the book cover, like other
Right.
things.
So you've got a folder for stories. You've got a folder for the artwork. You may, let's say, you've got a folder for high level quotes from famous people. You've got the framework that you've come up with, et cetera, et cetera. So let's imagine this file structure for your book. You could do that and you could work on that in Microsoft Word because all the file structure is there. But let's just say you go over to Google Docs. They're two different platforms, but the file structure remains the same. I still know that I need to put in the framework. I need to put in the quotes. I need to put in the art. So my point in giving you that example, and it may not be exactly correct, but I just wanted to get people to wrap their minds around the idea of AI similarly using a file structure to go through how you're working with it. So the
I
way I'm going to
I
read
do
what
like
this
that. I
is.
do like that, the way you explain that, right? So for someone who sort of thinks in a certain way, they would have folders. Everybody has sets up their laptops differently or their Google Drives differently with different folder structures that have meaning to them. And you're saying that no matter what the LLM, the new ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever it is comes out, you want a consistent way of having meaning about the thing that's important to you.
That's exactly right.
So
That's
you're
exactly right.
basically you're also not having to, my understanding is, not having to constantly remind those AIs who you are. This is the way of
Right.
doing it.
And you don't have to remind the AI where you've left off on something. So nobody sits down and writes an entire book, puts in all the quotes, adds all the art, and gets the whole thing complete in one sitting. You're going to sit down, chip away at it, go away, do something else. Sit down, chip away at it, go away, do something else. And when you come back to this book, you're going to go, all right, where did I leave off? And the way you recover in this ICM framework, interpretable context methodology, is the AI will write a file that basically keeps a progress report on everything that you've done, where you've left off, what the stage gates are for different decisions that you're going to make, and basically sticks a pin and says, this is where we're picking up next time we start. That way, you can come right back to your AI session. You start a new one and say, tell me where we left off. And it'll say, the last three things that we left open for you to work on were da 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 da. Right? Now you're back off to the races. You don't have to start over and not have the clarity that you wish you had about where you want to begin. So let me just read this piece right here. It says the ICM framework is a file based, stage gated project system that survives session breaks, enforces quality gates, and makes processes transparent and human editable, right? So it's not just the AI writing code to itself that you can't read. You can literally go into the file. And if you're on the go, you could go into the file and just read, where am I picking up when I get back to my desktop? Oh, I forgot. I need to think about this particular thing that's clearly written down here in a readable format for me. It's amazing.
I think we had a post recently. A lot of people are using it like a vending machine AI. They go in, they enter in a question, it gives them a response. They take the response, they copy paste, or they take that whatever the information was and they move on. But then if they come back to it again, they got to pick up the conversation again, like with a new chat thread. And it's saying, well, who are you? Now, unless you've put something in, say, a project in ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, it's gonna kind of forget who you are, but
Totally
then
agree.
well, it doesn't remember everything across every single conversation. So what you're saying is this is allowing you to have persistent memory.
That is
Oh,
exactly right. And so we both have podcasts, right? Podcasts have several things. They've got the, sort of artistics and graphics that coincide with how you present the show,
like
right?
the thumbnail.
You've got your headshot thumbnail, you've got your background art, you've got your music. You may have an intro script, like the same thing that you say almost every single time. You may have an outro slide that has your social media links and all this other stuff. So you've got certain consistent things that you're going to use every single time you do a show. You can put those things into a file. And if you have set your automated systems in AI to help you with, in this instance, producing a podcast, it'll know very clearly because you've told it every time we do this, this is going to be my background slide. I want you to use this headshot. I was just working on this earlier today. So I know that this works. And now you've got a consistent, repeatable process that you don't have to think about and tell the AI, don't forget to do X, Y, or Z. You've already told it. These are the steps that we're going to do consistently. That way, every time you start at step one, it's going to know these are the steps we go through. And if you break in the middle and you need to step away, what's going to happen is it's going to say, all right, we ended here. Our next step is this, and it's just going to keep going. And that this framework allows for high levels of consistency in AI, and it prevents from some of the what do you call the creep that
The
happens?
hallucinations or the
Hallucinations, right? The drifting, the hallucinations, and the drifting that sometimes happen with AI models as well. So this has been fascinating. Every time I start a project in Claude or Codex, I immediately load up my ICM framework.md file and I tell it, get familiar with this and tell me whether this is applicable to my project or not, because it's not always applicable for some of the things that I'm doing, but usually it is.
I think that's important because now you're just sharing a relatively small sized file with the AI
Mhm.
versus you trying to remember what you wrote last time and try to give the context in a much more verbose way, and it's not very targeted or hard to understand. And then it's trying to sort of figure out what you're talking about, uh, which is burning what we call more tokens, right? It's more use.
That's
So,
right.
and there's only so much space that goes into an AI chat thread, right? Like the token count, the how much context can be captured within a particular chat thread, no matter what
Mhm.
it is. Sometimes it's really big now. It's like, over a million tokens or something. But if you're using these models that are very expensive to use, like this Claude Mythos or whatever, they basically are charging your use by tokens. So if you're going to waste, let's say, waste tokens on reminding the AI who you are every time in very inconsistent ways, then you're going to get less valuable output.
Right.
But what
And you're going to
you're
waste your own time,
yeah,
right?
so think about it this way. I say, like, imagine you hired, 2 employees, and one of them, you basically trained and said, "This is how we work. Here's our standard operating procedures. Here's the history, the background, everything you have. Now, every time you have to make a decision, you reference this." And then you have another employee that you're like, "Good luck, figure it out." And then where do you
Right.
think you get better output?
And
I think,
and that employee keeps running back to you to ask
"What do I
you,
need? What
"Hey,
do I
what
need?"
about this? Hey, what about this?" And you're like, "I told you the last time. This is literally the same thing we did last time."
Yeah,
That would be a very annoying employee for you to have. So
yeah,
that's part
that's
of why I love utilizing this framework because it makes a repeatable process. And I don't know if you picked up on what I said, but I just started using Codex. So I've been in Claude Code for
yeah,
weeks. I just started using Codex because I actually hit my usage limit earlier today on Claude Code, and I had set up Codex in Visual Studio Code, and so I said, you know what? If I'm out of usage over here, why don't I just move over here? So I just went over to Codex and I said, go. And I'm glad this came up. I went over and I said, I want you to read the framework files for my AI dev team. I created a development team from that replicates my days back in software testing and development. And I told Codex, I want you to go read the files, that file structure that I set up that tells my dev team how to work, and tell me, can you work with that file structure? And it basically said yes. But for Codex, I need to make one or two little changes. I'll set up a separate file for me, Codex, to use. But basically, it's going to use the rest of the structure. And so now I will have, in essence, two dev teams because I will have set up one in Claude Code and one in Codex. The reason that's efficient for me is, as I said, I ran out of my usage over in Claude. Now I could turn over to Codex and say, tell me where the dev team left off. And it's going to go read the files because the dev team will have left a record of what they were doing. And Codex will be able to pick up and say, here's the top 3 decisions that you need to make right now. Now say, great, let's knock them out. And I can keep going. So this is an interesting way to, in essence, use 2 different systems in parallel, but it's because the underlying file structure is there that it allows me to do that. If that wasn't there, you can imagine I would have to go over to Codex and say, my name's Damon Davis. I'm working on an AI dev team. Here are the things that we've been working on. I'm trying to remember where we
And
left.
then your usage is gone in like a day, basically.
Exactly.
It's telling them who you are, basically.
Exactly.
So that's
So
really
I'm
it.
happy to show you some of this stuff if you want. Just let me know
Yeah.
where you want to go.
Yeah, let's do it. I think bring it up on screen. I think it's really interesting that we're finding ways to use different AI models, different AI uh, based on how good they are for certain things, right? So let's say if Claude Code is the number one for coding, for example, but ChatGPT overtakes it the next month or day or whatever, it doesn't matter because you have all the context stored somewhere else.
That is exactly right.
And
Exactly
so to
right.
teach strategy, this is the thing where I was working on Saturdays is in my AI is putting the context into my AI to talk about strategy, where to take the business. But if I want to execute, let's say, a task, maybe it makes more sense for me to do it in another system. Um,
Mhm.
because all these AIs are developing capabilities at different speeds, right? And
Right.
some of them they're going to develop capabilities that most people will never touch. If you think about your phone, I mean, how many apps are on here that I don't use?
Absolutely.
Like I was saying the other day, this is iPhone 12 Pro.
Mhm.
What are we on now? iPhone 17,
I have a
18?
17.
It still
The only
works.
reason I
It's
got it was because my friggin' 13 broke.
it's the camera, right? That's the only
Yeah.
difference. Um, but yeah, I'll get a new one eventually. But it just goes to show you we can only adapt the technology as fast as the human is able to or willing to.
Yeah.
So
Which is an interesting point. I'm glad you said that last piece. I'll bring up my screen in a minute. One of the things that I've noticed, we've talked about this notion of, we're both in Instagram and on various social media platforms. And because we are in AI, we get a lot of AI in our feeds. And we can see very clearly how rapidly it's advancing. I don't get the impression like my son and my wife, no AI in their feed whatsoever. So they have no idea not only what we're talking about, but how rapidly what we're talking about is advancing. And the reason I raise that is because I find it hard to keep up with how fast it's advancing, is my point, right? It's moving so quickly. It's actually fun to try to keep up with some of it, but for the person who's thinking in this direction of development over here, there's another person who's thinking in this direction over here. Now I'm trying to keep up with both of their great ideas. And then there's other people out there doing all kinds of other stuff. So I find it very challenging, but I absolutely see the opportunities for businesses to gain efficiency, reduce costs, improve effectiveness with the utilization of AI. My systems have gotten incredibly efficient, and I've come up with several ideas for building more, delivering more for my clients, and and it's an exciting time. So I'm having a lot of fun.
I'm going to show you one thing for 2 minutes because you just mentioned the challenge that you're having about keeping up. A while back, we had talked about the different AIs that are out there. One of the companies that I work with hands on is called MindStudio. uh,
Hmm.
have sort of this agentic, where you can build out workflows to do things that are automated. So what I did is that exact challenge you're mentioning. Every week, I have a what I call my Executive Minds Digest come out, and this is just for my purposes, is because imagine all of the newsletters that you get excited about, you sign up in your email box and you never look at them, right? You're just like, there's too many. It's like my email box is mostly junk and it's a lot of AI newsletter junk. So what I did is I set up basically a monitoring agent that every week at a certain time will consolidate everything from the week from all of those different newsletters, and it'll produce a newsletter just for me. So
That's
that's
all.
basically up here. Yeah. So I've got it just took all of this and it puts all the hyperlinks as well. So if I want to dive into more information, then I can go ahead and read more about that particular article if I want to. So that was just a really quick one just to show you that there are practical use cases. I know we kind of start talking and diving into the tech, but imagine how much time this saves me, right? That I can
Right.
just go here and say, what are the top topics last week that happened? And let me digest that very quickly. So I thought that
That's
was a
brilliant.
quite a cool one to share. Um, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy Mind Studio. I have to tell you though, there have been times when I've wondered whether I should be in Claude Code or Mind Studio. There's so many pieces that you have to put together, but I like that you can see the entirety of the workflow in Mind Studio. I put together a workflow for my scheduler that basically says when somebody shoots Damon an email that says, "Hey, that was a great chat we had. Let's get 30 minutes on the calendar to follow up." I can just send this over to my AI employee Anita, and Anita will find 30 minutes on the calendar, offer it back to the individual who shot me that email, and then say, if that doesn't work, here's 3 other slots, and here's Damon's scheduling link. I don't have to do anything. Like this is that challenge of constantly managing your own calendar with somebody who's trying to connect with you. You'll be in an email chain and you're going back and forth, and then someone will say, I'd like to get some time. And now I have to go think, shoot, let me open my calendar, see what did they say? Was it Thursday or Friday they're available? And I'm going back and forth, back and forth. So I tell you that story to say the time reclamation as a busy executive is priceless because now I can get out of that minuscule scheduling task and focus much higher on the strategic things that are going to be important for the business.
Absolutely.
So let me show you my setup here. I will share my screen. Give me a moment. So here is my Visual Studio Code. Remember earlier we were talking about the interpretable context methodology framework.
And just for the non-technical folks here, this is a code editor basically that allows Damon to sort of go in and make changes to the underlying files that are containing the context, the information, the memory, let's call it, about who he is and what he's working on. And you can see on
Yeah.
the lots of folders there. So most people will not use it unless they're more technically minded, I would say.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Again, this is not my framework. This is from Jake Von Cleef. I encourage you to look him up. He's incredibly smart, but he's a lot of fun to follow. And I think that you can learn a lot from just understanding what he's talking about in terms of having a constructed file system underneath your AI operations. But I want to just take you, Sean, through what I've been working on in terms of my AI employees, and you'll see what this file structure looks like. And now I want to just point out for folks, Visual Studio Code is literally the ability to see your file library in your code. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. So I'm a Mac user. I'm going to open File. You can see here Claude Code. And when I open Claude Code, you'll see that I have this AI employees folder. And it says AI dev team, Willie's in sales, Soren, Soleil. These are all my staff. This is the Mac file finder. This is the same thing here in a visual form. So this is projects, AI employees, adaptive intel team, AI dev team. And you could see all the names there: Amara, Anita, Bridget, Kenji. All these folks, there's Veronica and Willie. All of these are my employees. It's the same thing as what you saw over in the file finder. But underneath each one of these, as we talked about, there are various files and folders that make up the persona of who this individual is. So we talked about the knowledge. Knowledge rests in here in terms of the adapt framework, which I've originated in my book. The build principles that we use. You can see it just goes on and on and on. Here's our organizational roster, the pipeline of things we're working on. All of these are the things that Veronica will read before she and I engage so that she understands very clearly this is who I am as an organization, Veronica, my co founder, and this is how I interact with Damon. And here's what we're working on. We start every chat with her having that body of knowledge. And then we end every chat with her updating her own knowledge to say, okay, this is what we decided to do. Damon's going to do this. This AI employee is going to do that. Another AI employee is going to do that. And when we come back, we've got all of those things set up and ready to go.
Can I ask you a question? So
Go for it.
the where you've got Veronica, right?
Hmm.
Uh, you've got knowledge, and you sort of have a number of markdown files there. And each
Hmm.
of the on files, if you clicked on one, there's just a lot. Like it's very simple explanation of what's happening within it.
Sure.
Are
Yeah.
those same sort of markdown files, adapt framework, build principles, org roster and pipeline positioning, readme, scoreboard, are all of those knowledge-based things, and I see you also have memory and skills. Are all of those sort of the structure is the same across every single employee?
Not necessarily because every employee has a different job, but in terms of the general structure, there's highly likely to be this README file, but they're not necessarily going to have the pipeline and acquisition because Veronica is my CEO and co-founder, right?
Yeah.
But if we went into Soren, who is my project manager, you could see that it's keeping track of some of the software builds that I have going on. The idea log. So I told Soren, my AI employee, I want to be able to give you some of the ideas that I come up with on a rolling basis. And I need you and Veronica to prioritize which ones we should focus on first and to keep me organized so I don't veer off into the creative and building when I need to be over serving my clients and in client acquisition. So the idea being Soren has a different framework to work from than Veronica does. Does that answer your question?
Yes, because I noticed there was buckets of information, right? Knowledge, memory, skills. So I just
Mhm.
thought, okay, is that going to be kind of the framework you use and every employee would should have knowledge, memory, and skills? But it
In
looks like it's not necessarily doesn't have to be like that. It can be more very tailored to the individual.
That's exactly right. It's going to be tailored to the individual. And it's not something that I set up. As I was interacting with Claude Code, I told it, this is the kind of employee that we're working on. And I would go into my chat with Veronica, see if I can find it here. Here's my chat with Veronica here. And I would say something like, I want to create a new employee and I need you to give me the build spec for that employee and we need to work together. Basically, I was trying to tell Veronica, I need to understand better what kind of staff member we agree that we need. Tell me what you think, and let's build that. Veronica create the spec, and I would take it over to Claude Code and say, I need to build this employee, and it would do it.
So you went to your co-founder, you said, "Look, we're looking to hire our first employee, basically. Help
Mhm.
me build that first employee," pretty much.
That's exactly right. So me and my co-founder sat together. We created the various. We created the basically the list of employees that we wanted to have. I had already created a list of employees that I knew I wanted, but the co-founder helped me to flesh that out. That's correct.
But you have chicken and egg, so you had to create Veronica first. So how did you create her first?
I didn't actually have chicken and egg, to be honest with you. I started, and this is something that I recommend with everybody, is that you begin with the problem that you have first. Then you figure out how AI is going to solve that. So you can see how I arrived at creating Veronica well down the line. I started with one of my most simple problems. I need somebody to help me with my schedule. So I created Anita. I just needed somebody to take that piece off my plate. Then I figured I could build something more robust, help me with email triage. And that's when I built Michaela. And now I'm starting to build the staff, and I realize I'm going to end up with myself in the middle of all of these staff members. I need a co founder to strategize some of this stuff. That's how Veronica came many agents later, because now I can work on the strategy stuff while the staff is working on the tactical stuff. Do you
Let
see
me
how
ask
I
here.
evolved?
So as a business owner in the, let's say, pre AI world, if you're starting a new business, it's usually a solo founder. They might hire a BDR, business development rep, to go out and start getting bookings, getting meetings so you can convert stuff. Then you might hire your first salesperson. Then you might hire your first delivery person to actually fulfill whatever you sold. So in today's world with AI, you can sort of go and develop the entire team and then sort of adjust them over time. How do you, and maybe there's more rhetorical questions, like how do you face the, I need to worry about hiring someone, which is actually now building someone
Yeah.
today versus wait until I actually need that particular thing for the business. And so I was just thinking that, like, because if it's so quick to quote hire, because it's AI now,
That's the
it
difference.
it actually does consume time to actually build and quote hire your digital people.
Right.
So it's still there's still a trade-off there.
There is, but I want to paint a picture of how different the trade off is. So, in the human hiring world, if I needed a BDR, a business development representative, I and Damon need to sit down and write the description of exactly what I think I need. Who is
Yeah.
the type of person I'm trying to find? Now I need to go out on LinkedIn, to Indeed, call my friends to see if my buddy Sean knows anybody who fits this BDR. And I'm in this process of cycling through, even trying to find the possible resumes that are going to come to me. Now I have to siphon through all of these resumes and eliminate some candidates. This is going to take me some time. Plus, I'm doing this while I'm conducting the business. So I got to carve out some time to go sit down, read the resumes, figure out if this is going to work for me or not. So you can see that's very real human time that I need to execute on. The difference now in this AI world where I've built these employees is I've basically programmed exactly the kind of person I need. I don't need to write it down and go find them. I have built them and now they work for me. So the difference is a couple of hours of development in Claude versus multiple hours over the course of potentially weeks. Plus, I hate to say this, I also have to pay this person, right? So at the end of the day, I'm going to need to provide them an incentive to come and work for me. They have to see my vision, the value we're trying to give to the world, and feel like they want to dedicate their time in compensation for their time. I have to pay them. I don't have to convince any of these guys of this stuff,
They
right?
work 4/7.
They work for me. And I mean, quite literally, for the ones who do actually have a real email box, it's costing me maybe 20 bucks a month on my Google Workspace account. So I've now got 20 bucks a month for this person who's delivering this immense level of value because they've taken all this stuff off of my list. And all I have to do is really go back and make sure they're not drifting off course and make sure they're staying correctly aligned.
Investment in upfront time, while it can feel longer because you're learning a new skill, you're developing something you haven't developed before, is probably a good investment because you're understanding your process, first of all, that you have to kind of really understand what is it that you want, that you're learning how to automate it. And then once it's automated, now it can exponentially sort of do things that if you were doing it the manual way and you said, okay, I'm going to go hire the BDR and I'm going to go through all the steps you said in terms of finding the right one. And then you're like, oh, guess what? I need a second one. Oh, I've got to do those same steps again. And then, maybe the person leaves and they quit one day. And like, so there's a lot of unappreciated time that you're actually spending manually,
Mhm.
that if you just invest a little bit of time, understand your process, and actually experiment and try to build stuff, it'll benefit you much greater. So that the curve sort of picks up over time, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I will go back to what I said at the beginning. You have to start with a problem that you have, because then there's almost immediate value on having spent the time to create that solution, right? If you're sitting down and just dilly dallying, you're going to find that you've spent time learning, but not actually learning towards something that is applicable to you and your business that's going to bring you efficiency, effectiveness, reduce costs, improve revenues and profits, right? So find the solution to an issue that you have and see what AI tool you can build or buy that will solve that problem. But don't do the other way around. If you buy AI first and try to squeeze it into your business processes, you're going to screw things up. And we talked about this before. This is the Lucille ball, right? You put
Yeah, yeah.
AI in the beginning and the conveyor belt starts to move really fast. And now you're just stuffing chocolates in your mouth because everything's coming at you too quickly.
I'll summarize and kind of wrap up this session here is you've got to start with a strategy.
I agree.
It's
That's
you've
exactly
got
right.
a strategy, and then you know where to apply AI and where to put your energies first.
That's exactly right.
Assess. I think you had posted something recently. It says, or maybe it was me. AI is not going to fix a broken process.
That was you, my friend.
Wait, all these themes are sort of coming back to me, right? It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
get a strategy, figure out what you want. Once you've got that down, and I think that was my Saturday, coming full circle back to where we started this conversation, is like thinking through where you want to go, what are the things you want to do, like getting it all out, getting the AI, having it somewhere where you can store that context. So no matter where technology goes, you own that context outside of the language models that are gonna always improve. And then once you've got that, then you can start tactically figuring out, okay, do I need this agent or this employee or this task done? And then if you've automated it, like you've done, I mean, it's just going to get exponentially gains over time.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm striving for. Yeah.
Uh,
You nailed it, man.
All right, so hopefully they've got a few practical takeaways. They saw the digest email that I created. They saw how you created some AI employees. I think it was a good conversation, and we'll do more of these. We'll keep going.
Absolutely, Sean. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Thanks, Damon. See ya.